Welcome, welcome. We're going to be talking about human design today. We're going to be talking about gene keys. I teach the gene keys, but I love going into human design as well because it's just super fun. It's just a different way of looking at these gene keys, of really deciding, like, okay, this is all very interesting information. Like, what do I want to do with all of this information? Like, how can I use this to better myself and my business? And so what I came across whenever I started learning these gene keys was it really unlocked all of these different sides of myself that I didn't even realize were there. Like, it started shining a light on all of these talents, all of these gifts and abilities that I had inside of my system that I really wasn't like letting out to see the light of day. So have you ever felt like that, where you just like know that you're supposed to be that person that stands on the stage and speaks? You just know that you're supposed to be that person that writes the book. You know that you're supposed to be that person that gets on the internet, that like makes these videos, that makes an impact in this world. But maybe you're like in that phase of twirling your thumbs because you're like, okay, I've gathered all of this information, but like, how do I get out there? How do I really do this? And so, where the gene keys came into play for me was that, like, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that, like, I was supposed to be getting out there and like spreading this message and teaching the things that I knew. But I was scared. Like, I was genuinely scared to get on live streams. I was scared to make videos. Like, my voice was shaky and it would crack. I constantly would doubt myself and be like, oh my gosh, I think everybody else in the world is the expert, but not me. And so, if you've ever felt like that before, understand that that does not have to be your forever. Just because you have that feeling of like, am I ready? Am I enough? That doesn't mean that you can't get out there and start teaching, because everybody in this world, whenever they start something, whether you're a freaking snowboarder or you make fancy pancakes, like, here's the bottom line is you're not going to be very good at first. There's every now and again you have like those kids that can just like sit down at a piano and figure it out and make it happen really easy for them. But most of us, whenever we start things that are different, that are outside of our comfort zone, it's scary and it's uncomfortable. That's so me right now. Yeah, it's uncomfortable to start something new. I'm going to tell you, whenever I first started doing this, I would have rather anything, like, I would sit here and literally hope that I would transfer into a different dimension rather than press the live button. I just like would pretend that the live was already done. I had already completed it. And like, I would just be sweating my face off, like, would have rather walked into the pool with my clothes on than go live. But like, everything inside of me knew that like I needed to be out there teaching. And there wasn't just like, I wasn't just gathering up all of this information for like no good reason. Like, I wasn't good with people for like no good reason. And so I finally like had to take that responsibility of being like, okay, yes, this scares the ever living daylights out of me, but at the same time, it's worth it. At the same time that I am walking forward and being brave, it's okay that fear is right there with me. It's okay. Hey, Sabrina, it's okay that fear is right there with me. That doesn't mean that I'm doing it wrong. That doesn't mean that you're blocked up or something's off. Like, there's going to be fear whenever you do things that are uncomfortable. There's going to be fear whenever you do things that are new. And that's an okay thing. I think that we all assume that like this is where spirituality world gets a little squirrely bird, right? Where it's like, oh, if everything's in alignment, then it's flowing. I'm going to tell you what, being on an entrepreneurial journey these past 5 years, and really like since I sold my other company, I was a lavender farmer. I made all natural products, but ever since like I've been on this entrepreneurial journey, it has been the biggest way to personal development, even more so than spirituality. Like, there are things that feel uncomfortable whenever you build a business, and that's just the flat out truth. There's things that you're going to have to do that don't feel natural to you, that are like, whoa, this is like banana pants crazy. And like, to put myself out there time and time again for collaborations, or to like post that video that feels like I'm truly on my edge. Like, even right now, I'm streaming on YouTube live for the first time ever. Like, I usually just have like TikTok, or I have like where I teach on my Insight Timer, but I'm like, I'm going to see how to do this. Like I had those little jittery butterflies inside of me that was like, I've never done this before. Like this feels weird. Am I going to be able to handle this? And it's like, heck yeah. Like, how do you know how to do something until you just do it? And so, what's really cool about your gene keys is that they point you in this right direction of, hey, what is it that you're naturally gifted at it or gifted at? Like, whenever your beautiful little soul came into this world, there was this energetic imprint. And I always tell people, I'm like, this is not one of those things that is meant to keep you in a box, but what it is meant to do is inspire you. What it is meant to do is like you take these things that you just came in with that you're naturally like inclined to be very talented at, even if they scare you, because most of the time, the things that you're good at are going to be things that scare the living daylights out of you whenever you first start doing it, because it's big. Your mission is big, and that's okay. But whenever we have these gene keys and we know what these things are, it makes it that much easier for us to do the things that feel brave, for us to do the things that feel uncomfortable. Because for me, I always talk about this. Like, I learned about the importance of my voice through the gene keys. And I feel like in every single fiber of my being, I'm like, I know I'm supposed to be teaching people not just about the gene keys, but about having a confidence in their voice and showing up online and like being this personality, like bringing out their star qualities and their X factor. And it's in my gene keys, but like everything about that, everything about using my voice scared me so much. Like I would literally sweat through my all natural deodorant. Like it would just smell like eucalyptus up in here. And it felt off and it felt strange, but I knew on the other side of that fear was everything I ever wanted. Which keys identify business destinies? So hi, Auntie. I love to mix and match all of them. So I like to think of them all as like they marry together and you use them how you need them. And so I used to sit there and like take showers and think about like I just be thinking about like the different ways you could pair. I'm like, ooh, what if I paired my pearl with my vocation? Like, what does it look like whenever I do my life's work with my purpose? Like, how do those kind of blend together? And so where I found a lot of juice personally is I love the pearl. I love the life's work. I'm big on the culture because actually the culture is the one I was just talking about with the voice. And I like to think of the culture. So if you're familiar with a gene key chart, by the way, if you're brand spanking new, like welcome. I'm so glad you're here because this is like the grooviest thing you can learn. If you like human design, if you like astrology, this is just a deeper dive down that rabbit hole and all the things that make you sparkle and shine in your life. And so if you've never seen the gene key chart, it's like 11 circles, where if you've seen human design, it's like, okay, that kind of makes sense because like, I know about chakras. I know about like, there's a human body, but whenever you look at a gene key chart, it's like, that's just a bunch of circles. And so the first time I saw it, I was like, what in the heckity heck does this mean? So I'm talking about very specific gene keys right now. So if you are familiar with the gene key chart, we're focusing in on the blue area on the culture. So there's like a little blue area at the top and the bottom right hand is the culture. And so I think that one's a really cool one to focus in on with our business as well, because this is kind of like once we understand some of these other gene keys, these other like gifts that we have, and we let them stir and purr in our system, this is what happens whenever we like get up on the world stage and we start speaking from those gifts. We start holding ourselves as the person that like has all of those gifts and how the world starts bending around you. No clue, gene keys. I have my human design chart. Yeah, this is just like a deeper dive. So really it's taking the information from your human design chart because Richard Rudd, who channeled out this information, hey, Peggy, Richard Rudd, who channeled out this information, he deeply studied human design. He deeply studied the Chinese I Ching and stuff like that. And so like all religions basically, and just kind of blended it into one. So he really takes all of those placements and all the energy of like the human design gates and like where the planets are and puts it into this chart to like help us understand ourselves just a little bit better. Let me make sure that. Okay, let me go down. Oh my God, Auntie, I'm like obsessed with the 15. Like if you've ever been on one of my lives before, you may have heard me talking about the 15, and it's because I have the 15 twice in my chart. And I believe that like if you're here listening, no matter if you have the 15 in your chart or not, like there's a message in here for you. Like you're hearing these little pieces of gold for a reason. Because we all have all 64 of these gene keys. It's not like it's just very focused in on those 11, but we all have every single one of those and we can choose to wake them up inside of us at any time. But that 15 is super freaking groovy. This is my first on yours. Yay! Should I go get my gene key chart? Yeah. What you can do is, oh, I like your name, Diamond Rose Tarot. What you can do is just go Google free gene key profile. I usually do do readings and stuff, mini readings while I'm on here. Right now I'm streaming my YouTube live for the very first time. So probably like this weekend, I'll get back on and do those mini readings. But yeah, for now you can go Google your gene key chart, like free gene key profile. And I have a lot of different information on here on my TikTok and even over on my Instagram to help you like start putting little pieces together if you like zoom through my feed over there. And where was I getting? Oh, the 15. Okay. So I am freaking banana pants crazy about the 15 because like I said, I have it twice in my chart, but the vivid imagery that comes to my mind, I don't know if I saw a cartoon whenever I was a kid of like this visual, but you know how they used to say that the world was flat and there would be like, I just literally, there must have been something I saw. It was like this image of these ships going over the edge of the map, right? Like almost like the world just dropped off. And so what I picture with this 15th gene key is this idea that like you're on this boat and you go all the way to that edge. You go all the way to the edge of the world and then you turn around and you come back and you tell everybody about what you learned. Like I think about even like Game of Thrones nerd over here, like how Arya Stark went off at like the very end of Game of Thrones and she like went off to explore like places that weren't even on the map. Like I read the books too. So like my brain always, I think she like went off that way. And so I picture this with the 15th gene key that you are somebody that is willing to go to the ends of the earth, to go to all these diverse areas so that you can learn, so that you can bring back the juice for everybody else. Because most people, Auntie, are not going to be that brave. Most people are not going to make crazy moves like you do or like I do because I got it really strong too. And so I look back at my life, and this is probably going to make a lot of sense to you as well. I look back on my life and where I used to consider myself like a little reckless, I now see that that was part of my superpower and some of the biggest like punchlines to my story. And like I had moved across the country 5 years ago to become a lavender farmer, to take over my dad's farm. I knew nothing about lavender. I knew nothing about making all natural products. I had been selling BMWs and I had that full body pull of this is my next chapter, even though it scared the living daylights out of me. And most people are like my grandma, like everybody in my family was like, why are you doing this? And I just knew I had to go. And so me and my husband up and moved our whole life to the desert to become farmers. And it was one of those things that like I knew it was right, but it's still scary. You know, like I knew it was right. Oh, you got it. Sweet. I knew it was right, but it was still scary. And that's the thing. Like, because I was willing to do that, I now get to like teach from this point of view. And it was the same whenever I decided to retire from lavender farming and sell that business. I just sold it last December to go full pull into my purpose work to help people in their business through their gene keys, through their human design, and really just like become this unicorn in their niche. And it scared me, but it was ballsy and I went for it. Oh my God, funny. I considered starting a small lavender farm a few years ago. Auntie, I'm going to save you so much time. Like, okay. And this goes for anybody that has ever felt like, I'd love to have a farm. I'd love to do this. And I know that it is for some people, but I am so freaking glad I got that off of my bucket list because it is so much more work than you think. It's so much more work than you think. And like, I like chilling. Like, I don't want to be out there doing like physical labor nonstop. Like, it's one of those things. I learned my lesson. I was like, I'm so glad I got that out of my system. We had 8,000 plants, Auntie. It was banana pants crazy. I didn't even know that was a thing. Ah, Oh, yay, Sarah, you got yours too? Ooh, my grandfather was a farmer. I lived on 40 acres. Yes. Okay. So you understand, Auntie, deeper than most people will, because most people are like, yay, let's go be a farmer. Then they're like, holy shit, what is this? So glad I got it out of my system. But it's still like being willing to go to those diverse edges. And even, I guess I'm telling these stories, like hopefully these spark all these incredible things for you in your past that you've done this as well. But even like whenever I was going to sell that business, before I was for sure going to sell it, I decided to invest in a business mentor, like an online business coach, and invest 5 figures. And it scared the living daylights out of me. And that was before I even had clients or anything like that. It was just that full body knowing of, hey, we're going to go to our next level. We're going to do something that really scares us. And I learned so much in such a short amount of time. And now I get to bring back that wisdom and that juice for other people. So trust yourself whenever you have those big nudges that say, like, hey, I'm going to do this thing that scares me. Because whenever you do those things, you allow somebody else who's listening to your story or sees one of your posts, sees what you're doing, to be so much more brave than they would have been if they didn't hear you. And even though they're not going to be as banana pants crazy as you, like you're going to give them that boost of confidence that they wouldn't have had before. So trust yourself whenever you have those things. Yes, Sarah. So the 33.4. Yeah. And so I wonder, is that in your life's work? I did that with a 30-foot sailboat out of my system. Oh my gosh, that sounds cool though. But you're like, oh, I know all the nitty gritty of living on the sailboat. Good adventure though. Yeah. Yeah, your life's work, Sarah. David, the world. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, yeah. So that 33, I'm very you guys are all here at the right time because you're talking about some of them that are even in my chart too. So you know how it goes whenever you like learn about certain things. Like, of course, I've learned about all the human design lines, all the different systems, like all of the gene keys, but whenever you like first get into something, it's almost like you dive super deep on what it is about you, because like I feel so strongly that we get to teach from these gene keys. These are like our special gifts and abilities that we get to teach from. And so I dove deep into that 33 whenever I first started. And that 33 kind of pissed me off at first, Sarah. I'll be honest with it, because I had come from a background of like, I had been teaching shadow work, I had been doing psychic medium work. And whenever I found these gene keys, I pretty much divorced my old way of doing spirituality. Like, I decided to become a retired empath. I decided I wasn't going to pick up on like full moons, Mercury retrogrades, anything, because I could feel myself after all the years and years of doing that, like getting distracted and not really like tuning into my own power. Like I was constantly giving my power away to other things. So if you resonate with that, like you're here for a reason. And even if you're like, oh, that doesn't sound like me, like that's okay. We're all entitled to our own opinions here. But I very strongly feel like I took control of my life last year and stopped letting outside things be in charge. And so I came across that 33, and it was called like one of the websites called it The Shaman. And I was like, I've already done like animal shamanism work. Like I was kind of over that. You know how when you first get into spirituality, you're like, oh, ayahuasca sounds cool and like shaman energy sounds cool and all that stuff. I was kind of like on the burnt out edge of that, like after hearing so many people do it. And I was like, oh, I'm bored by that. But so what I found inside of it, because it was my pearl. So that's like your money making gene key. That's the one whenever you're like tapped into all your best money making ideas. And it's just as important because it's in your life's work. So that's like the energy of your career. So with some deep diving and even like some reflection on that 33, it's also called retreat. And what I found out was like super juicy about this, because I don't know about you, Sarah, but I used to be the kind of person that would like answer the phone for everybody and be like out solving their problems like nonstop, like putting out other people's fires. But every single week, the same people would come back to me with the same issue, but a different mask on. Do you know what I mean? And so I felt like jarred out of my own element, and it was like constantly like giving them attention. And actually, I do so well whenever I started cutting that off and like not picking up the phone the way that I used to, actually focusing in on myself, taking more walks on my own, like just listening to my own thoughts. Cause actually, Sarah, you are a master contemplator, which sounds like so funny, but like your thoughts are so juicy and brilliant that like you don't need to be disturbed by outside things. Like you're that plugged into source that like it's just like the grooviest thoughts come through your brain. And so whenever you got other people like jostling it up, it takes you out of like that track. And so you do really well as much time as you can possibly have, like focusing in on your own thing and really like taking a step back. And the funniest thing is, whenever I started doing this for myself, Sarah, my energy skyrocketed because I wasn't trying to put out the same old fires for people over and over again. I started taking care of me. And instead of helping like person one by one, I'm now able to like get on the internet and talk to like thousands of people throughout the week on all these different platforms that I teach on. And I'll stay on here for like a couple hours and I feel jazzed and I feel excited. And I never would have had that energy before. So, like, your energy is like so precious because you have the best thoughts. Like, ooh, that's so pretty. Thank you. You have the best thoughts though. So trust yourself in the thoughts that come through and give yourself a lot of breathing room whenever it comes to other people, because really it might get a little mixed up if you're like constantly picking up on everybody else's thing. I have to even be aware of this with like scrolling through Instagram or scrolling through TikTok, that I only do it for like a hot minute before I'm like, okay, we got to step back out. Like, we got to get back to Stephanie. So you got to get back to Sarah. So trust yourself with that, and freaking master contemplator. And I think that you said you're at 33.4. So that means that you lead. I love talking about this, you guys. I'm so glad you're here. This means that you have these like Care Bear vibes, like nobody's business. And so it could be easy for you to think that you like need to like nurture the tribe all the time because you are that 4 and you do really good with other people. But it's like that 4 also, I love listening. The 4 also has like where they can sink back into their own hermit mode because they're so out there, because they're so influential. So it's really about having that back and forth and you like mastering that balance within yourself as you pull back and you lean forward. And like the more that you pull back and let yourself marinate in your own energy is so much more powerful and influential whenever you do lean forward and you're in those groups of people. So I always say 4s are like Care Bears. They got a big squishy heart. Whenever, I don't know if you make content online or anything, I usually the people that I'm speaking to are like spiritual healers. They are like business coaches. I've got a lot of real estate agents, but I always say, like, whether you make fancy pancakes or you do like wiring in a house, it doesn't matter. Do I offer consultations? Yes. So I do full business gene key readings where I pull up your chart and your business's chart and I help you with your branding and how you show up. So that is on the link in my bio. I'm doing my very first YouTube live while I'm on here doing TikTok live. Like, this is fun. I love multitasking. I'm not even a manifesting generator, but I like multitasking. Oh, you're a 4-1. Always so confused to think I'm on a path I can't get off. Oh my gosh. That is so interesting, being that 4-1, because what is it called? Like the juxtaposition. This is where I need like my Brandy Yates and my Tangi to come in, because if you guys are familiar with the human design readers over here on TikTok, they're my buddies. And so they all know how to go like deep diving into those things. But yeah, with that 4-1, you are so unique. And I often say, I'm like, you have that path that it's almost like the footprints are in stone. So like trust yourself in your every move. It's already like laid out for you in the best possible way. And like your intuition is going to keep you on that. I'm a 6 Manny Jen. Oh, I love that. Diamond Rose. So I really like the 6s because they have those 3 different distinct levels to their life. And so I love to think about it as the caterpillar to the cocoon to the butterfly, and that you are just like this fine wine that like gets better and better with time. And like you literally live the life of all of the other lines in one. And I often say, like, this is one of my favorite descriptions, and it just came from the files of my brains, like came through me. It's like you feel alien, but like actually being alien is your superpower. Being like an outside point of view, like where you feel like you are the hawk sitting up in the tree sometimes, that's always made you feel a little bit different, is actually liquid gold to the clients that want to work with you. Because like, have you ever just like worked one-on-one with somebody and their outside guidance was like, holy banana pants, I've never thought about it that way. Well, you are like that on steroids to somebody else. And then being that manifesting generator, like you're going to go through things even faster than the average bear. So trust yourself with all of these different interests. But I always tell manifesting generators, because this is one of those things I've seen. Like I've worked with so many very successful CEOs and entrepreneurs that are manifesting generators. We're talking like 100K weeks plus people. They have found a way to take all of the things that they love, take all of their different interests and shine it through one prism. I've also heard it be described, if you're a visual person, as like everything is under one umbrella. But I always like to think about it like the Care Bear stare through one prism. So all of the things that you love through that prism and shoot it out. So if it's like manifestation, if it's mindset, like I teach about the gene keys, but honest to God, like I love so many other things. Like I love talking about sales now. I've been studying copywriting all the time lately. Like I talk about it all through that lens of the gene keys. And that gives me a really solid foundation for my business. So Diamond Rose, like know that whenever you have like one core thing and a writer, nice. Oh, I love that. Yeah, know that whenever you have that one core thing, that makes like a really solid foundation for you. Over here, you familiar with Nick Good's work? I feel like I had somebody else mention him to me before, maybe on like Insight Timer. I was into him like 7 or 8 years ago and stumbled upon your videos talking about gene keys and accidentally stumbled on Nick and he's talking about gene keys. That's funny. I think somebody, yeah, mentioned him to me back whenever I was teaching on Insight Timer. It's funny because sometimes I like the prismatic. Yeah, it's sometimes I talk with other gene key readers. Like I've mostly had a lot of conversations with other human design readers that have like started to get interested in gene keys. It's one of those things, kind of like you stay in your own lane. You just kind of do your own thing, especially this last year. There wasn't anybody hardly at all talking about gene keys whenever I first started doing it. And it scared the living daylights out of me because I was like, why is there like only 2 people on Instagram even kind of saying stuff about this? And 2, I saw it very differently. I saw it through the business point of view and through actually taking action rather than just contemplation. The contemplation is golden. I want this to be clear. The contemplation is a beautiful part of the gene keys because I've had some of them that I let stir and purr in my system and then they just like keep evolving with time, especially as I do readings for other people. Like the other day, I just had like this vivid imagery come through for the 14th gene key that I had never had before. And it was like very like Peter Pan-esque and like how people with the 14th gene key can like help other people fly and make them feel really good. And I was like, oh my God, Peter Pan's coming to my mind. So I really kind of like stay in my own lane whenever it comes to gene keys because I see it becoming more and more popular now. But whenever I first started, there wasn't much out there. And so it was that feeling of like, okay, well, I can't be the only person looking for this. So I got to get brave. I got to get out of my own way and just start creating stuff. Just start talking about it from my point of view. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, I've always described my prismatic is a good word. That is a good word. I wanted to go back up. I think somebody else said which ones they had. I have 57 in my personality sun. Oh my gosh. Angela, the 57. Okay. This is not gene keys, but my birth time is 1414. Nice. So whenever it comes to gene keys, I love like because a lot of words get like tossed around in spirituality all the time, right? Where it like kind of like loses its luster or loses its meaning. And so it's funny. I love to picture this whenever I think about the 64 gene keys. So in each one of those 11 circles, you can have one of those gene keys. And so there's two numbers. There's that first number, which is the gene key, and there's the second number, which is kind of like your human design line. So if you're familiar with human design, you understand the vibes behind that. But I love to think of that like those gene keys as 64 different horses all lined up. Like think about 64 different race horses, but instead of the traditional race horses, we're adding a palomino. We got paint horses, we got ponies, we got Arabian horses, we got all the different horse breeds, quarter horses, all the people lined up in the house. There's 64 of them, and they're all different. They all have different personalities. Some of them are faster, some of them are slower, some of them are sweeter, some of them are spicier. They're all different. So that's like all of the 64 different gene keys, right? And so if we were to take that 57th gene key, that 57th horse, we pull it out. And this is the one gene key, the one horse that is really, truly about your intuition. Out of all of them. Now, there's other ones that have shades of being intuitive because, like, I believe that we are all just crazy intuitive. Like, it's just something that we decide to turn on in our system. But out of all of them, that 57 is so strong in your intuition. And even like, I think Richard Rudd has that in his life's work, if I'm not mistaken. It's somewhere very, very like potent in the sequence because I remember him writing about that. But you are so tapped in and tuned in that it's just like, I often describe intuition as like, instead of being something you're picking up from everybody else, like what if you saw yourself as this supercomputer that just immediately knows which way to move? So it's one of those things where it doesn't feel as draining in that sense when you know that you're directly plugged into that source and that you're always just going to be moving perfectly with that. You are so much more powerful rather than having to pick up on everything else. You stand tall and you're like, I know what my intuition needs me to do. I know how to move. And the more that you believe that about yourself, the more powerful you're going to get. And it's just going to get sharper and sharper and sharper with time. Like where it's like without even a shadow of a doubt, like there's not even any questioning yourself anymore. So out of all 64 of those racehorses, oh, you have the 57 too? Nice. Out of all of those 64 racehorses, you have that one that is truly about intuition and trusting yourself. So it's beautiful. I love to think of the gene keys though. If you've been on my lives before, you've probably heard me talking about this. It just keeps evolving with time though. All 64 are like those horses, the 64 gene keys. And then that point decimal line that comes after, that's 1 through 6. It can be a 1 through 6. So that's like your human design lines. But with each one of those gene keys, it puts like a different mask on, a different kind of flavor, a different kind of flair that it brings to it. But think of that as 6 different jockeys. So we have a jockey in a blue shirt, a jockey in a yellow shirt, a guy in a purple shirt. One of them's like sassier, one of them's friendlier. And so we grab so my life's work is 32.5. So we grab the 32nd horse. Let's call him a paint horse because I grew up with some paint horses at my dad's house. So let's call him the paint horse. And then we've got the 5th jockey because it's a 32.5. So we grab that 5th jockey. He's got a blue shirt on. So that blue shirted jockey is riding that paint horse. And that's how my energy plays out in my career, in like the energy of my life's work. And so you can see why we are all so freaking different, because I'm not a mathematician, but that is a lot of different combinations of what you can have in your energy. Can you talk about, let me scroll back up real quick. 54. Oh, Diamond Rose Tarot. So that 54.6, is that in your life's work? That very tippity top one? Beep, beep, beep. Let me check. There are certain gene keys. Yeah, I can talk about that. Yeah, so that does make you a 6. So if you've ever looked up your human design profile line, it's probably like a 6'2" or a 6'3", something like that. And so those 4 outside gene keys, those green ones, they are going to have your human design profile in them. So I'm a 5'2", right? And so whenever I'm looking at my gene key chart, so the top one and the one furthest to the right hand side, they'll both say zero 0.5, zero 0.5. And then because I'm a 5'2", then the one furthest to the left hand and the one at the bottom, the green ones will say 0.2, zero 0.2. So that's where your human design profile like comes into that, because that's like your conscious and your unconscious sun and earth. So that's how that shows up there. So yes, you're probably a 6'2" or a 6'3". That's groovy. But your gene key is the 54. So it's the 54th horse, which you and David Bowie have. I've been doing a lot of 54s lately for the life's work. David Bowie had the 54 in his life's work. So that's like that little Capricorny energy. And so this is like all about being the achiever. This is somebody that can actually like accomplish things very quickly, whether it be in the spiritual realm of like rising to spiritual heights very fast, or whenever it comes to like monetary and career. You're somebody that like, if you just keep your head down and do the work and just like chop wood, carry water, eventually this door just opens up where like somebody sees you. So whenever you have the 54 energy, you have this like, somebody's going to see you in your element and grab, like reach out their hand and grab your hand and want to pull you up. So be very aware that like opportunities surround you whenever you have that 54, that if you do the things that you know that you need to do, you check all of the boxes and you're very real with yourself. You get all your ducks in a row and just chop wood, carry water. Eventually this door opens up and somebody wants to pull you up like another 6 levels. So there's some magic in that 54. And then Sarah, I'm going to get to your question in 1 minute. I'm just going through from top to bottom. Thoughts if you have 49 twice. Oh my God, that means that you have that revolutionary energy very, very strong, Auntie. So that just means that like whenever, like I always think about like the Revolutionary War, obviously, because that's like, that comes exactly to mind, but it's like breaking free of the way that things have always been done and showing people an entirely new map, an entirely new way of doing things. So if you have an idea that feels edgy and feels scary, like this is the perfect thing. And so you show people like, you don't have to do it that way anymore. It doesn't have to be done this way. So like revolutionary, it isn't even just about them. Like they're very involved in their movement. So like think about really what the magic in your movement is. You hear a lot of business coaches teaching about this. Even my business mentor talks about movement a lot. Like, what is it that you stand for? What is it that you're trying to help people with? Whenever you get really groovy and really solid behind that energy, you're going to become super powerful. And okay, so can you talk about the different types of gene keys? Yes. Okay, so where to start where I can just give like a little appetizer platter. And if you go over to my Instagram, and even I think some of my old TikToks, I have it, but I do it like every few months on my Instagram where I talk about these different ones. And so the life's work is like the energy of your career. So the life's work's that very tippity top one. And that is really where we can understand like, what is the flavor? What is the energy that you bring into your work? And so I, on one hand, took this very, very literally, and I found out, and this is how crazy it is whenever you hear one of your gene keys and it just clicks and it just makes sense. Like 2 words changed my life. I saw, her name's Christian Nage. She writes about human design, but she was like one of the, it's one of the links if you ever look up like a certain gene key. So her writing has a lot about archetypes. And so it helped me to understand like the archetypes behind these gene keys rather than just all of these different names, right? And so she writes and says that the 32nd gene key is called the Success Oracle. And when I heard that, I felt like the full body fire of like, yes, Of course. This is why I've always been doing like the psychic medium work. Like I always knew that I could point people to their true north, but I could never really put it to words. And so it's like whenever people would say things about their business, it would almost be like they'd be talking and they'd be saying a paragraph and I could pull out one sentence. I'd be like, "Ooh, tell me more about that." And they'd further build on it. And that would be what makes them successful. Like I can just feel what makes people successful. So sometimes when they're stuck in their own thoughts, I just come in, I listen to what they're saying, and I pull out these scarves. And it's like, here you go. There's your pile of scarves. Now go make magic with it. And so I heard Success Oracle and I was like, this makes so much sense. And so I use mine very literally, right? Like I just decided to sell my other business and go full pull and be like, okay, I'm starting a career based on being a success oracle, like using these gene keys, helping other people in their business. Cause I was at that point, a 4.5 year entrepreneur. I'm like, this is like, I'm starting a business from these two words basically, which sounds crazy, but at the same time, it's very, very normal for me in the long run. But my husband has the life's work of the 47, and that's the alchemist. And his is more like figuratively. Yeah, I felt it for sure, Diamond. And so his is more like figuratively. So he has the alchemist energy. He runs the IT department for a deli meat factory. And so he started like at like whenever they were a really small company and they've grown much bigger now, but he would do everything from fix people's cell phones to like make sure that the machinery was running. And so it was one of those things you could be like, how can somebody in IT be an alchemist? Like that doesn't make any sense. But for him, whenever we started talking about this gene key and I started really like looking at it from an outsider's point of view, it's like people go to him for solutions to turn something crappy into gold, basically. Whenever they have an issue, he transforms it. He makes that thing evolve. And even not even just the machine parts of it, because he's so like genuinely kind and loving. He's not like that guy that most IT people are like, kind of grumpy and being like, you're dumb. Like he's somebody that tries to actually teach people whenever they have a computer issue or whenever they're like dealing with the machine. Like he genuinely wants to teach people. And so they often leave the interaction feeling so much better than they did before. Like he puts a little sparkle in their step. He gives them a little piece of wisdom that they didn't have before. He's really gentle and kind about it too. Even though he's a strong presence, he's like gentle and kind whenever it comes to people learning technology, because we know like that's not everybody's forte. Yeah, empowers them, Diamond. You nailed it. He really does empower them so they leave feeling better than they did before. And so he's clearly an alchemist the way that he brings that to his work. But you could sit there and like and be like, how does that make sense? But really, like, there's a sense of imagination that has to take place whenever you're playing with these gene keys. And so I love to say, like, you have that imagination, but then you bring it down into reality. You get ideas from this spark, from this thing. Because I couldn't sit there and just be like, I'm a success oracle and like live in airy fairyland. No, I had to start moving like the success oracle, put myself out there, do these readings for people, do all of this stuff, and actually like get the ball rolling, build up my confidence in being the success oracle. And that's when everything starts to really fall into place, when we take action on these gene keys. And that's literally not ever a sentence I've heard anybody else say, is taking action with gene keys, because it really does require you to be creative, or even like work with somebody that's going to help you be creative, to like pull all of that magic out of you too. And so I love these keys because you get to decide what it means. You really do get to decide what it means to you and then use that to grow. I'm telling you what, in this past year, the inspiration of these keys have taken me from 0 to 700 in a hot second. Like I'm not even the same individual that I was before I knew these gene keys, because what they did was just inspire me. They made me see this greater part, these like bigger talents that were inside of me, and how to blend like that archetype energy with what I was passionate about and then show up online like that. So it is freaking incredible what these keys can do. I get really excited about different ways to use them. So I don't even just do readings. I teach courses about like how to use them to become more confident. I have a 2-part masterclass coming up in 2 weeks. This is part of my no-brainer summer. I'm like on a mission to get as many people in the Gene Key world as possible. So I have a $99 2-part masterclass that's coming up on the 3rd and the 6th. If you're not able to make it live, you get the videos after anyways. So make sure you DM me if you're interested about learning more about like turning on that content faucet whenever it comes to these Gene Keys. But they really open up so many different creative channels for us that maybe we just didn't recognize. We weren't sitting on, yes, I'm glad, yay. Human design made me understand about being lit or not lit up about things as we go, as we feel, yeah, that totally makes sense. It's so fun to like follow those things. My attraction are both in the 49.5. Ooh, nice. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of that revolutionary energy. Angela, you're a 2-4 splenic projector. Oh my gosh. I love me some projectors because I'm actually like usually going to be the one that tells you how much more powerful you are than you're giving yourself credit for. Because I think a lot of times, and I'm not saying you, but I've seen so many projectors that come through and they're like, I'm waiting for the invitation. I don't know how to move. I don't like, I'm following my rules that I'm supposed to be following. It's like, you know what? You showing up, like showing up big, you're allowed to do that. And by somebody like following your page, that's your invitation. Like, don't ever let human design or Gene Keys or astrology or anything in this world keep you small. Don't ever, ever let any type of way, if you have that just like soul's knowing, screw the rules. Like, really, I'm going to tell you right now, I have experimented with this in this last year, like a mad scientist, where I just became my own guinea pig. And it's like, there's been times where like things haven't lit me up. Like I'm a generator. There's been times that things haven't lit me up, but at the most solid foundation, like if I was thinking about doing like my taxes or like getting on my QuickBooks and like and organizing all that, no, that does not make me excited. But what does make me excited is being a badass business bitch who knows her stuff. That like turns me on. Like I'm getting hot and bothered over here thinking about that. Like to be this CEO that knows every single angle of her business and does it responsibly and does it on time, that lights me up. And so I can have one of those moments where I'm like, oh, I don't feel like writing those notes today, or like, oh, do I want to write this email right now or do I want to like sit here? It's like, no, actually, what is the greater turn on here? And the greater turn on is kicking ass in business. And so that's what makes me thrive. That's what makes me happy. So I hope you can take that and run with it too, knowing that like you can play with this energy. I always feel like I'm flip-flopping. Even went back to school for a new career, want to change again. And here's the thing. Auntie, I always talk about like because this is my background too. I am full of eclectic knowledge. Like if you would see all the things that I've done on paper, you'd be like, "Oh, that's one failure after the next." And that's not what it is. What I see is I was an x-ray clerk. Like I thought I was going to go to nursing school for a while. I went to school for biology. I wanted to work with elephants. Like that's all I wanted to do was work with elephants. And so I went to school for biology for a while. That didn't pan out. I was too busy working at my bartending job. So bartending, going to school for biology. I did car sales. I did that x-ray clerk stuff. I became a lavender farmer and worked farmers markets and shipped stuff all over the country and did psychic medium. I thought at a certain point in time, like probably just a little over a year ago, I thought I was going to be Teresa Caputo. Like I thought that I was going to talk to people who had crossed over. I had been doing readings and I was like, this is so potent, so palpable. Like the things that I'm telling people, like this is what I'm meant to do. I finally felt like I hit that home and I was like, okay, all of these things added up to this thing. And then after doing readings for a while, I had this like feeling wash over me that was like, it felt like the other side. And they're like, we're not the ones that you need to be helping. Like, you need to help people live while they're on earth. Like, we're good over here, Stephanie. But I had to go to that level so that I could feel fulfilled, kind of like we were talking about with being a farmer earlier. I had to experience it and go there so I could bring this knowledge back. And so you have all of these things that you've gone there, that you've gone from one rabbit hole to the next, but like nobody else in the world has your eclectic knowledge. And that's what makes you so crazy important. Because when you tell your story, you never know who that's going to just like hit with and make so much sense. And they're going to be like, oh my God, I've had 6 different careers too, or I've jumped around, or I don't even know exactly what the purpose is. It doesn't matter. Like whenever you can own your story and who you are and how far you've come and what you've learned along the way, that is where you can start making money from all of those different moves. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah. I intimidate people when I don't mean to. That's okay. You know, the right people, Angela, they know you. They feel you. I always say, I'm the biggest, I heard this from Bob Proctor a long time ago. And he always would say, when you hear the truth, you know it, like you feel it. And so like your people, whenever you show up, they'll know it. They'll feel it. They'll be all there for you. Action is necessary. Yes. I used to be such a little feminine flow hoe. Like, I've never said it like that before, but I really like it. I used to be such a feminine flow hoe that I was just like, universe, give me all of the things that I want. Like, I'm just going to sit back. I'm just going to trust that everything's going to fall in my lap. And this last year, I got obsessed with action. I got obsessed with going to the pottery class, with getting my hands dirty and really seeing what I was capable of while I'm here. Like, so action is so much fun. I did a post the other day. I was like, put down the mindset books. And I started putting down the mindset books and started becoming obsessed with sales, because like, you're not like, if you want to learn more about something, if you want to learn more about sales, like, it's just not all going to be downloaded into your brain just because you sat there and you thought about it. Like, you will have the opportunity to learn more. Like when we shine a spotlight on something that we want to make important. So for me, it was sales and like copywriting, because it's like, hey, you got something really good here. But if you don't know how to sell it, if you don't know how to present yourself and speak to it in a way that it can help people, then what the heck are you doing? Like, I feel like a lot of people in the spiritual realm, and that's why I usually speak to people that are intuitive business owners, is that we have all of this mindset stuff and all of this like spiritual stuff, but also like, you got to get your feet on the ground and run. You got to jump into the pool before it's all figured out. Like, that is the ultimate leap of faith. And so it's one of those things that I've fallen in love with action. So if you're drawn to this kind of stuff, it's because it is just that time to move. This will say no if I don't want to do something, no regrets. Yeah, for sure. Get you. I love elephants. My favorite. I love elephants too. I just want to be their friend. Like, they are so smart. Like, oh God, like, are you one of those people that like, if you watch videos of animals, it's almost like cuteness overload? Like sometimes I just have to keep scrolling because it's like, this is insane. Like I feel it so much in my heart. Sometimes when I watch elephant videos, I feel that way. I'm like, it's too much. No, you don't. 56. Listing the jobs I've had and places I've moved would fill the feed. Dude, that is so fine though. That is what makes you you, Diamond. Like, that is all of this different, beautiful, eclectic knowledge. Like, I'm so passionate about talking about that because for so long, I felt like crap about myself for being crazy and doing different things. But now I see how all of the things that I was pulled to, one thing led to the next that led to the next. And now I'm here. Now I'm more self expressed than I've ever been. Now I'm making money doing the things that I love, teaching courses about things that genuinely excite me. And we're just scratching the surface. So trust all of them because they are taking you to the right places. I know much about a lot of things. Yeah, I can relate to that. I'm a little too much in the jump part though. Ooh. Oh, so speaking of, I saw somebody. Okay, so I saw the 31. I'm going to answer the 31 in a second. I saw somebody put the 7 up above. Now that just triggered my mind. And so that 7, I love to like paint the pictures for you that I see in my brain whenever I think about certain gene keys. I did a lot of my psychic medium work through my clairvoyance. And so I'm very like I see pictures. And it wasn't always that way, but it was just something I knew. And so I developed over years. And so now whenever I do these gene keys, I call it the kitchen sink approach, where I will read the human design interpretation. I'll read the I Ching interpretation. I'll read the Gene Key interpretation and like gobble up as much as I can. But then I have to let it stir and purr in my system. And it starts to like project through my heart. It starts like I see these pictures or it like reminds me of a person or of an experience. And so I explain the gene keys in that way of understanding it. I don't see a link on YouTube for your personal website. Oh, I thought it was on there. It should be on there somewhere. It's like a link tree. If not, you can go over to my TikTok or my Instagram. It's Hey Stephanie Eastman. So my name, Hey Stephanie Eastman. So with this 7, I really have always seen this as like it's called the alpha, but I always think about this as like the lone wolf. Oh, it doesn't work. Oh, okay. I'll have to replace that. Thank you for letting me know. But I've always thought about it as more of like the lone wolf because like if you think about any story that like the hero has to like go out and become something before they can really lead. And so I think about the 7 being like such this lone wolf energy. I have this too in my chart. And so it's really like you're in this pack and you're like following because a lot of the best leaders like at one time were followers, but then it's just like something happens and you're like, I'm not here for this anymore. Like I want to blaze my own trail and like I'm not here for this any longer. And so the lone wolf takes off into the forest and they go on like their own pilgrimage of like figuring themselves out, of leading themselves, of what it means to lead themselves. And on the other side of that, they eventually come across another group of wolves, is what I picture. And I tell people, I'm like, I don't know much about wolf lore or like wolf history. Oh, it froze in there. Come back on. I froze over there. Are we good? Okay. I often tell people, I'm like, I don't know much about wolf lore or wolf history or how wolves all work, even though I love them. But I picture this lone wolf going off and coming across a new group of wolves. And they're like, whoa, look at this. Look at this wolf. Like, we want to learn from this wolf. This wolf has been by himself, like in the forest this whole time and led himself through, got through to the other side. Like, we want to listen to this wolf. And then you become the alpha. So I love to think about the 7 as you have to go off and learn to lead yourself. And then you come into the position where you can be an incredible leader for others. So really, I have so many people that come into this world that, especially people that have the 31 even, that talk about, I'm scared of being a leader. Being a leader makes me uncomfortable. And like that's okay to have those feelings. Like those feelings are valid, but I'm going to tell you on the other side of that fear is you being an incredible leader. On the other side of that fear is like people really appreciating you for paving the way, for being that trailblazer, and you making money from the things that you learned as you taught yourself. Because at the end of the day, I love talking about money. So I'm always going to be that person that like I bring money and I bring business into this. And so truly, you deserve to be making money from the ways that you lead yourself. Like I started running, like this sounds so funny, but like I started running 2 miles 6 days a week, a couple like 2.5 months ago. So I am not a run for fun kind of girl, right? Like I did track in middle school so I could drink blue Gatorade and I do like the 100 mile or the 100 mile, the 100 yard dash. And then I ran whenever I was 20 years old. I'd like walk, jog, run, but I would smoke 2 cigarettes before and smoke 2 cigarettes after and then party all night. So I am not like a run for fun girl, but like something inside of me was like to be a better business owner. What if I do this? Like, what if I instill this discipline? I'm glad that you like it, Diamond. Like, what if I instill this discipline in myself? And I just start like, I didn't know how long I was going to run for. I just knew that I needed to start running. And so I did it and I built it up and I built it up to now where I run 2 miles 6 days a week. I wake up at 5:30 and I go run before 6. I'm out there running. And even though some days I don't love it and other days I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And then some days I'm like, this is incredible. Oh my God, like this is amazing. It has made me a better business owner and it's reflected in my sales and who I am in my business because I didn't have anybody else in my life telling me to do that, but I just had that internal pull to do something different and I did it. And now that makes me a better leader in my business. That helps me to show up more disciplined for my business than ever before. Endorphins, yeah. And so I make such different decisions now because I start off my day with something where I'm like conquering the world. And so I feel like a leader. I feel like a leader in my skin. So if you need to like get really confident about your leadership. If leadership is something that scares you, I've seen it a lot with people that have the 31. If you go follow Brandy Yates, she does human design readings over on TikTok. And she has a 31 in her life's work. I'm pretty sure it's in her life's work or revolution. No, it's her life's work. And so whenever she knew that she needed to start talking about human design, but she was scared. Like she felt, I love Brandy too. Yeah. We're doing a online business retreat together on July 15th. This is another part of the No Brainer Summer where I'm hosting a $55 online business retreat on July 15th. That's on a Saturday with Brandy, with the manifesting scientist, Kelsey. She's amazing. She used to be a chemical engineer and she talks about the actual science behind manifestation. I'm going to be talking Gene Keys and I've got Pearl talking about health and mindset. So it's going to be super groovy. Make sure you're in on that if you love Brandy too. She's going to be there. And so it's one of those things, if you have that 31, like go out and do things where you lead yourself and like that backbone of leadership will just naturally build because you'll start trusting yourself more to like follow through on the things that you say you're going to do. And by that, you'll just start to hold yourself differently and you'll start to feel like this leader and you'll start to just like it's almost like you become this kind of cool kid that it's like you feel so secure in who you are, you just start showing up that way and then the crowd naturally gathers that are ready to hear your message. Yeah, that's right. I forgot. I do have the link for the event in my bio if you want to go check it out. But yeah, so the 31, they call it like the elected leader. And so the 31 and the 7 share that same little channel. So if you have both of those things, it's called the alpha channel. I don't focus in as much on the channels because that's more of like my human design girls that go into all the deets of the channels, but I can tell you all the deets of each of the gene keys and each of the human design gates. But because I have the alpha channel, I've studied it so that I could understand myself better and how I show up online. But that 31 is very much like this elected leadership position. It's like you cannot force this. What it is about you just going out there and being proud of who you are and knowing that at some point in your life, there is going to be an opportunity for you to go out there and shine. There's going to be an opportunity for you to lead other people. And it's almost like all of your life is just preparing you for it. So you don't even always have to like go out of your way to be some perfect person. It's like you being authentically you, you're already ready. The experiences that you've had already make you ready. And so whenever you just show up and you talk about the things that you love, people will flock to you. They'll feel it. The more confident you get, the more they will be pulled in. So like Brandy right now, she's so funny. Like I seriously love her because I'm like, you have such a huge following over on TikTok. Like your videos always come up first. Like if you like, I was like, whenever I started studying human design after I learned the gene keys, because I did it backwards. I learned the gene keys and then I learned how to read human design. But I told her, I was like, yours was like the first video that I watched on being a 5-2. And she's like, I don't know how that happened. I just started showing up. She's like, I literally like, she's like, still to this day, like, I don't even know. I'm like, you have like 100,000 followers. She's like, I know, it's crazy. But she was so scared of being a leader, but she just started making those videos talking about what she knew, talking about what she loved, and people flocked to it. So what other questions do we have? I'll hang out for a little bit longer. It's fun to have chats about this kind of stuff. Like, I would love if you have any questions about your profile lines. I would love to hear, like, what is your profile lines? Like, so I'm a 5-2. So yes, I bring the 2 into how I market myself to a certain degree. But at the end of the day, I'm a 5. And whenever you're a 5, this means that you deliver wisdom, quick, efficient. I call it lickety split. Like, I don't know why I've been saying that word so much lately. It's like one of the My Little Ponies. But I think of lickety split every time I think about the 5. Like, you don't have to get your kitchen dirty. Here's the cupcake. I already made the cupcake. Do you want it or do you not? Like, that's how the line 5 works. Oh, so you're a 3-5. I think that the 3-5s are so interesting because you have that element too of like this fast wisdom, but it's all about like for you, first and foremost, you have that roller coaster that you rode on through life. And then from that juice, you deliver that wisdom. So from those slight moment trip ups or those things that didn't seem like they worked, that is where you get all of this juice and then you deliver that lickety split wisdom from there. So for you, it's like the first move is just going out there and playing and experimenting. And then you turn on that voice and you just come forward. So it all depends on like where it's placed for you. Yes. But like truly, whenever you have that 3, they really focus in on this on the gene keys is like that 3 is such, speaking from the experience for sure, that 3 is all about having a sense of humor with it. And this isn't like self-deprecating humor. This is like, oh my God, did you see that? That was crazy. This is what I learned from it. Let me tell you. And like the 3-5s are some of the most relatable people that are in all of the different gene key profile lines and human design profile lines, because they're just like, they're genuine and they're like, this is what happened. Now I'll teach you about it. So my 2-4 has a need for hermit time. I understand that so deeply, Angela, since I'm a 5-2. And actually, do you analyze the charts? Like do you readings and stuff? I like to just mix everything together, to be honest with you. Like, I think for a lot of people, it's one of those things that like, if you see one chart, it's a lot, but for some reason in my brain, I could see like 3 different charts and it just makes sense and the right things blend together for me. So I love like what I do for people is I offer this like higher end reading where it's all about your brand. It's all about how you show up in your business. And so I even had somebody ask a question about this earlier. They're like, how do I know what time my business was born? And so I shared with her, she's like, was it when I started my LLC? And I combine that business chart with your gene key chart and we pull out what's going to be really successful for you. Like, what are these archetypes that you need to know? How do you brand yourself? How do you show up online? They're also related. One of my favorite things. Yeah. I love it too. And so it's just with that success oracle vibe that I have with my 32, I know exactly what's going to be successful for people and what's going to take them further. So I just bring that out for them. So it's like a reading mixed with like my intuitive business advice that helps people go into the right direction, like what's going to create success for them. And so for the 2, I understand, Angela, because that is one of those things that, oh yeah, and then Diamond, I do my mini readings on here a lot. Right now I'm just doing a Q&A since I'm streaming over on YouTube too. But I'm experimenting today. But yeah, I usually have like 5-minute readings for 25 if you want me to tap into your pearl sequence. So most of the time whenever I get on here, I have that in my link tree available, just not today. We're just hanging out and chitter chatting today. But the 2-4, understand you on a very deep level. Like, I love that too, though, because you are so aesthetic. Like everything about you is about bringing this passion forward. They talk about passion a lot with the 2s. And so many of the 2s that I know, like if I go to their Instagram, if I go to any of their feeds, like it's beautifully crafted. Like it looks like a work of art. So it's all about how it makes people feel, like the words that you say, like how you write it. It's truly a work of art. And so I often say that these 2s, you're like this dancer dancing in the spotlight, like nobody's watching, but really like the world sees you and they're like, holy shit, look at them go. Like, look at this talent. And so you have to recognize this genius about yourself. And actually, like everything that I've been learning about copywriting and branding, it's so much. And there's somebody on Instagram. She does human design readings. She talks about copywriting a lot. She talks about the 2s a lot. Her name's like Ashley Brianna or something, Brianna Eve. She talks a lot about those 2s as well. But it really is like you have such a genius. And like a lot of times people with the 2 will try to show up and be like, this is all the wisdom that I have and I know. But at the end of the day, whenever you have a 2, you just have something that you can't explain. Like I'm a 5-2, so I understand this on a deep level of like a lot of what I say, it's just channeled directly through me. Like, yes, I've learned a lot, right? Like I'm gobble up. I'm like Miss Pac-Man whenever it comes to like learning things like the gene keys, all that stuff. I do my research, but at the same time, I form my own understanding through my intuition, and I can't always explain how I know the answers. And so people actually want to pay you for your genius, for you just being you and expressing yourself. Faye, ooh, I moved my question guy. How do I move you back, little guy? Oh, I did it. Nice. But I guess I knew things as a kid that I shouldn't have known. Yeah, that makes so much sense. I guess I need to do more research on my pearl birthstone 14.4. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we were talking about that 14. That like I literally interpret that 14 as this like Peter Pan energy of just like you teach other people, like you have to lead by example of I can make money doing the thing that I love. Like I can be prosperous doing what my soul craves. And by you doing that, I often think about it like that Peter Pan jumping out the window and like telling the kids, like, think happy thoughts. If you do this thing, you can be successful too. Just being around you has a magical effect on other people. So just being around you is incredible for other people's like how they feel about themselves, their confidence. So you have something that nobody else has. Whenever you have this 14, you really show people how to make money doing what they love. So lock that into your brain. Lock that into your brain because whenever people come around you, they feel so much better and they do feel like they're capable of doing that thing. So that is a good one to have if you want to be a type of coach. Like it doesn't matter what kind of coach you want to be, but that definitely has like the sparkle to it that you can bring to the table that other people can't. How do I find out my Gene Keys? You just Google free Gene Key profile, and you'll come up against the Gene Key website, and you enter your date, time, location of birth, and then 11 circles will come up and it will be all of this different energy. So make sure you follow me over here and on Instagram, because I talk about the Gene Keys every single day, but really how you can use them in your business so that you can thrive, how you can use them to brand yourself, how you can use them to even write your posts and show up on video. Because kind of what I was talking about before, whenever it comes to branding yourself, um, I used to be somebody that I always tried to do things like a 3 or like a 4, because I was doing like spiritual healing, I was doing psychic medium work. And so I thought I had to be overly emotional, but really that drained me. And once I found out that I was a 5 and I'm supposed to deliver this lickety split wisdom, everything in my business started changing. The way that I show up for my content, how much content I produce, like everything started changing. So it's little things that you may not expect, these little tiny shifts that you can make in your online business that really will make all of the difference and call in those right people for you. I studied the Gene Keys. And so I have done a little bit of the I Ching study as well. It's one of those things that I just wasn't as interested in it. Like, I have a little booklet that I refer to every now and again, but now my own understanding of each one of the Gene Keys is so much stronger than even what I've picked up from the internet or the books. It's that intuitive download. That's the 2 in me, that it's just like, no, I have my own vocabulary, my own library of it, but all of that information just sparked it for me. And so now I'm a big believer that we are supposed to teach about things through our own verbiage in our own way. I feel like whenever we do that, instead of me trying to like speak exactly what the Gene Key book said, like I tried to do at first, instead of me trying to speak exactly like the Gene Key book said, and I just started letting it pour through that, like that prism of my heart, really, I opened the door for so many more people to understand it. Because like I love rainbows. I love cartoons. Like, you'll see Kermit the Frog sometimes in my Instagram stories. Like, I'm squirrely, I'm goofy, I'm fun, like I'm bubbly. And I'm going to talk about them differently than the way that you're going to see in the original text. I'm going to talk about them differently than the other person that's very zen, that's very poetic, that's very like channels everything out. Like, my stuff is channeled, but it's in a different way. So I am such a big believer. If you love human design, or if you love fitness, like, and you think that something's oversaturated, it is not. You have your own way of saying it, of talking about it, your experiences that you have. And so I'm just a big believer in, like, that took me on a whole side note, but I'm just a big believer in teaching from your heart and your soul. Hey, Becca. Look at my groovy glasses. These are like my new accessories. Like, I should probably be wearing them because they're blue blockers, but I use them as a headband now, and because it's like a little color accent, and that makes me happy. I feel like a little cartoon character. Okay. All right. So I feel complete for the day. We've hung out for a while. Make sure that you go follow me over here on TikTok, follow me on YouTube, follow me on Instagram. We got a lot of good groovy stuff happening over on Instagram. If you click through my stories, lots of awesome offers for the summer. Like, I'm calling it No Brainer Summer. We have a $55 offer for an online business retreat that has 4 different industry leaders that'll be speaking, basically doing 4 mini courses in one on July 15th. I have a 2-part masterclass coming up in 2 weeks called Keys to Content. This is all about using the spark, using this inspiration from your Gene Keys to let that content flow through you. And it's kind of fun because it's going to be like part, like, I'm bringing a little bit of my own magical vibes into it, like part, like a little bit of ceremony, then a little bit of these archetypes, and then like plug and play templates for you to leave with. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes for content, I just need another idea that literally like sparks my interest. No, the link to that class is not on my link tree yet. I will put that on there today. But if you follow me on Instagram, it is sprinkled all throughout my stories today. So that is called Keys to Content. So make sure you sign up for that, because as many people as we get in there, there's still going to be time for a little bit of hot seat coaching at the end of that masterclass. And so just make sure you go sign up for that. $99 for a 2-part masterclass on these Gene Keys. Like I said, those plug and play templates that can really like get your creative engine revved up and ready to go. Because oh my God, I know what it's like to want to slam your head shut inside of your computer, never to be seen again, or to toss it into a river. I remember that. And so through these Gene Keys, it really inspires you to just come to life with your content, like be yourself in your content. And absolutely nothing is the same once you start doing that. And then also making sure that you look at my Instagram stories, because I have a lot of really cool one-to-one opportunities that I'm going to be dropping that are like 1-hour Voxer coaching sessions, just like voice note coaching, so that you can get revved up and ready to go. And you can have that, like that little chef's kiss of coaching, that little activation that really steers you in the right direction. And it's like, here's what you should do. Boom, boom, boom. Everything changes. 62. Yes. God, I love the 62. Becca knows all about the 62. What do you mean by your Gene Keys? I feel like I'm missing some important pieces. Well, Jenny, make sure that you follow me over here, because I go live most days where I'm going to be talking about the Gene Keys, but I will leave you. Nothing is ever the same. Becca knows what's up. Becca's in Keys to Confidence, and like literally she is kicking so much ass. I can't even like wait to see all the things that you do. I think about all your videos all the time, Becca, because like your presence on camera is so undeniable that I'm like, literally thousands upon thousands of people are meant to see your stuff. Like it is so groovy. So cool. But the Gene Keys are like a deep dive into your human design, Jenny. And they really tell you what makes you an absolute unicorn in the work that you do, and helps you just turn on something inside of your system that are like your special gifts that you are meant to bring to the table. And once you know these things, once you have that roadmap, truly you get to skip many steps in your process, because it's like, oh, if I just do this thing, I'm going to grow very quickly and it's going to draw people to me. So learning these Gene Keys, super fun. Thank you. So excited for this journey. Yes, everyone, make sure you follow. I will be back tomorrow, Friday, something groovy like that. But thanks for joining me. Thanks for joining me on my very first YouTube live. Yay. All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye. And then I will answer these questions over here. Okay. Just for heads up, don't see the link. Can you speak on the 57 for what you learned? I think you already did. You have square root of 1. Oh, you're the mathematician. Oh my goodness. You have 2 videos. Oh, I love that. Yeah. And that 57 is truly about that intuition and using your intuition as a supercomputer. This is my interpretation. Okay. Like my interpretation is so different than what you're going to see anywhere else online. Cause like after I've done enough readings for people, it's really like, these are the messages that stir and purr in my system. So you take this and you can study other links that talk about the 57th Gene Key, and it'll just give you this like well-rounded understanding of yourself. You'll take the pieces that you need and then you'll run with it. But I see the 57 as, I love to tell people, like, you don't have to be this empath where you pick everything up. You really get to use your intuition as a supercomputer rather than as a sponge to the world. And once you recognize that your intuition is just innate, it's in your DNA, it's just like a microchip or something, you always know the right moves to make. And you don't question yourself. You move that much faster. So take that and run with it. Thank you so much for being over here on this live stream. Very first time. But make sure you follow me over on Instagram and TikTok as well, so you can see me there too. And I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.